It was nice outside, by the way. Okay, let's go with the newlywed. Where'd you guys go on your honeymoon? Oh yeah, absolutely. What a. You get 2 questions. One for you and one for your wife. Oh, sure. Yeah. Wait a second. Of course you do. Go ahead. You get the first question. Who was injured? Oh, no. We came out of clean. We had a great week of preparation. No injuries. Wingo's out. Zai is out. Those were the 2, right? Those are the 2 that they continue to be out. Second question?
Well, it's actually for her. She's always wanted me to ask the coach what they would name a hurricane.
What I would name a hurricane? I would probably say it's got to have Louisiana. It's got gumbo. Gumbo. How's that? That's pretty good. Hurricane Gumbo? Why hasn't there been a Hurricane Gumbo? You would think there would have been, right? Okay.
Brian,
I'll go back into the normal the order that you normally follow.
someone just talking about the corners with their emphasis on play action and ability to take the deep shots. Are safeties really going to be the ones that are going to have to be on their A game this week?
Yeah, certainly they'll be part of it. Clearly it's driven by coverage, and formation. Determines who and what player has a particular run fit that can be influenced, and then obviously the ball, is part of that, right? Getting the ball into that area where that safety has a particular run fit. The corners should, obviously not be part of it, but, if a safety's not in a particular area, that's where you've seen some of these home run shots where, guys are running free because corners are chasing them. So, clearly we understand, the play action shots and the effectiveness of their running game and how that sets it up. So we have to be, in a position to stay on top of the routes and minimize those opportunities.
I think it's been several weeks since we asked you about him, but just how's Greg Brooks doing? Is there any update on just his progression or anything like that?
Yeah, the last I got was late last week. They had another procedure to help and assist in his recovery. He is in rehab, and if you will, working through that, process, but nothing to the point where I can, tell you that, all is a green light and everything's great. He's still in a battle, and but he's making some progress. It just we all want this to move to a point where he's back in the building, and it's just going to be a longer process.
Coach, on paper, Alabama is one of the worst pass protection teams in the country. Have you guys kind of identified where they lack on that offensive line, or maybe if it's the running back helping against blitzes, and do you see kind of those areas that you could attack too?
Yeah, numbers are, a bit misleading. I think some of those sacks were early on where there were a number of the sacks were about indecision at the quarterback position. They had 3 quarterbacks in there early on in the year that were holding on to the football, quite frankly. We were hoping that was the case, that we were hoping that it was an offensive line that was just, giving up sacks left and right, and that's not the case. A lot of indecision at the quarterback position led to a lot of these sacks. They've given up some sacks, but it's not an inordinate amount of sacks where you look at it and go, wow, this is just a leaky offensive line. This is a big, massive offensive line that's skilled. We're going to have to get pressure. And that's going to be part of this game. Being able to disrupt the quarterback is going to be central to this. But I don't think we go into the game going, hey, this is going to be an opportunity where we can, pad our stats when it comes to sacks.
I'm not sure if we've asked you about him really all season, but it seems like Garrett Dellinger's just had a really solid season for you guys at that left guard spot. Just what have you seen in terms of his improvement, and how is that, I guess, I don't know what to say, indictment on just how good he's been that nobody's really asked you about him this year?
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I think your assessment is spot on. He's been steady, but he's been better than that. I think he's one of the things that he worked on, and again, you got to keep in mind he had shoulder surgery last year, and he didn't have the off season to train. He was able to train this off season, and that made a huge difference, quite frankly. He's stronger, and he's on his feet. He was on the ground a little bit last year. This year he's been really good. And one thing that helps is the combinations with him and Campbell have been as rock solid as any that we've had. They get great movement, and really have been on that left side, a big reason for our success in the running game. So yeah, he's been I would say better than steady. He's been really, really good.
Some of the players have told us that you've been more involved with the defense, in the last half of this season, I guess. What have you seen as far as that progress goes, and just a kind of an overall temperature of your team? We know what you're going in there with. What do you think their prospects are?
Well, we're better defensively than we were when we played Mississippi. I think we've made steady progress. I think we're still work in progress, but we're getting better. I think our practice today, and I told them on the defensive side of the ball, was night and day compared to where it was against Missouri on a Thursday. So that's preparation, right? We have to perform. We got to tackle. We got to play the ball in the air. We've got to have 11 guys executing together, but we're definitely making the kind of progress that I wanted to see with my own eyes, and we're seeing it. I would say that has a lot to do with it. I think understanding how to play unit football, guys not doing their own thing, understanding where they fit from 4 guys in a pass rush to being on a string with the corners and the safeties to linebackers in their fits. It's just a coordination of all players playing together and doing their own job.
Hey, Coach, with the whole Michigan situation and just with sign stealing in general, does that actually matter at all? What does, I guess what I'm asking is, if the other team knew what your signs were, then how much would that actually affect things in a game, for example?
If they had our calls, if they had our call sheet, if they clearly knew we were running the ball outside right or throwing the ball down the field, certainly would matter. There's always been this thing, where there are tells or tips. I'll give you an example. The guard is sitting back, and it looks like he might be pulling, right? But he didn't pull on that play, but he usually does pull. That's never been an issue in football, right? There are tells in certain offensive formations, because that's why people self-scout, right? You give a tendency away. That's a whole different thing. If somebody has your plays and somebody knows what they are and they know it's a run or a pass, yeah, it has a significant outcome on the success of that particular play.
Coach, going back to week 1 after Florida State, if I remember correctly, you said this team wasn't what you thought it was before that game.
Mm-hmm.
Going into this game now, weeks later, do you think this team is starting to mold into what you thought they would be week one?
So my comments were much more about my sense of where we were, in terms of our maturity and how we needed to develop a maturity as a football team. And I don't mean, making good choices or staying up late or, not doing the little things the right way. Maturity as a football team means handling the moments. And I think our football team is much more mature in handling the moments. I thought we were a little bit further along, that we could handle a lead at halftime and not come out in the second half and think that the game was over. We learned a tough lesson. I learned a tough lesson. I learned as a head coach that I needed to do a better job in terms of recognizing that. So I think I'm better for it. I think our team's better for it. I think we're in a better position than we were at that time against Florida State.
With pressure being an important part of this game, like you said, what do you want to see maybe out of your defensive linemen, turning particularly hurries into sacks? Like a guy like Savion Jones has 6 hurries but 1 sack. What kind of things need to happen to fully get home to the quarterback?
To me, it's compressing the pocket and knockdowns are just as important as sacks. Look, everybody loves the sack coming off the edge and it makes for a great ESPN highlight. But when that pocket is compressed and you can't step up and you have to throw the ball in a manner that you're not comfortable with because everybody's in their pass rush lanes and everybody is in a unit pass rush, or that you're knocking down passes because you're timing up the throw, those are really important, and they're equally as important as any individual pass rush. So we're looking for all of those. And I think we saw against our last few opponents a combination of all those things. We'll look for a combination of all those against Alabama.
Just not beholden to this year, but just in general, how often would you change up your signals, your on-field signals?
Well, this year we've changed it up against Mississippi because of a former player that was in our quarterback room. We changed them up a little bit this week. So typically, 2 or 3 times. So in our verbiage, we have words that can be used 2 or 3 different ways, and we'll just go to the alternate way of using that word. And that allows us to not have to throw out the entire nomenclature, if you will. I'll give you an example. If we use, the number, we use the months, for example. January might be 1, right? The first month, January. We might go back to 1 and use the number 1. So we'll just flip it that way and change it up so we have a fresh way of doing things. Good? All right. Thanks. Have a good day.